You've selected a show from the Podcast Jukebox, a DIY podcast network.
Welcome to Queers Next Door
with your hosts, Lee and Megan.
We take the topics you care about:
sex, relationships, feminism, kink, social justice, and entertainment,
and look at them through a queer as fuck lens.
Find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Queers Next Door.
And make sure to follow the blog at queersnextdoor.com.
Cheers, queers!
Okay, hi.
Hi.
I just got shy.
You got shy?
I did.
Well,
it's been a while.
It has been a while. We can talk about that. Well, let's start with, what are you doing this week to take care of yourself?
I've been watching The L Word.
Nice.
Now looking at it, there's a lot of problematic things.
So much.
So much. But it was a show that I watched in 2003, before I graduated high school. And I loved Shane. Looking at it now and being like, we just wanted to watch it and discuss the problematic things. So I've been writing them down. So we'll have to talk about that after I finish the entire season. But the reason that is helping me take care of myself is because when I have really bad anxiety and I can't sleep, it's better for me sometimes to distract myself.
Oh, yeah,
with
definitely.
Something. And it just, I don't know, I binge on TV shows.
No, I would be really interested to watch The L Word again, because I also watched it when it was on. I've seen every episode, but I have not really revisited it. And I mean, I know that they're kind of garbage on gender stuff. I think the biggest lie that The L Word told me, though, was that there was a queer women's community in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Because that's just not a thing. Like,
yes.
When I moved here, I was like, where is the planet?
Where's the planet?
There is no planet. There is, which, funny enough, I think the TV show was shot in Vancouver.
It was?
Yeah.
No.
Yep. So
how sad.
I know. So it's not even kind of in LA. It's not even like they made the place in LA. So
yeah, I'm still on the first season, but already it brought back the fact, because we just talked about in the first episode about how we kind of identified different ways. So I was a lesbian, and then I was bisexual, and then I was pansexual, and now queer. It brought back the fact that in the very first season, like the first few episodes, Alice is bisexual, and everyone's telling her, you have to pick a side, don't be the dirty bisexual. When are you going to choose between dick and pussy? Mm-hmm. And now it's like, oh my gosh, no wonder we were afraid of bisexuality, and there's so much biphobia, and they reinforced it, and it's supposed to be a show that is friendly to the queer community.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Outside of The L Word, I also took a break. I didn't cam for like a week.
Okay.
And that was really good. I'm horrible at pushing myself to do things when I know that it's not a good time, or that I should just take a break and I'll be so much better. Today I came back camming in my Christmas onesie, and
nice.
It was so much fun, and it was much needed. So I'm trying to remind myself to do that more often with things, instead of doing it half-ass and feeling like garbage.
Yeah.
Well, take a break. Because when you're working for yourself, as you know, sometimes it feels like you don't deserve any days off, or I'm so broke, I need to make money, what am I going to do? And you get into this bad cycle.
But that's also part of like the benefit and the joy of working for yourself, is that you do have the space to do that and to like take some time off. So good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully I can do that more often. And how have you been taking care of yourself?
Ooh, all kinds of things. The main thing, like the main actionable thing, is that I called my therapist and decided to start going every week instead of every other week. I'm so pro therapy. And I also do couples therapy with my partner. And so I was looking at it as kind of like every other week I do either couples or individual. So it wasn't like too much, or I didn't feel overloaded, but I'm realizing that 2 weeks in between my individual therapy I don't know. I feel like I've really kind of needed it. Like I said, I'm such a huge proponent of therapy. I think I'm also a huge even though obviously I'm a sex coach, but I'm also like a big proponent of couples therapy, because I think what happens both with like couples therapy or like couples sex coaching is people wait until they're in crisis, and then it's like too late to do anything productive. So like my partner and I are not in crisis, but we've got a lot of stuff going on, and so I'm glad we do that. The other thing is just that, like, my health has been not awesome. I mentioned last time that I have PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It essentially, means that I have really bad emotional and physical symptoms as much as almost 2 weeks before my period. My cycle's been a little wonky lately, which means I'm not sure when it's coming, and the symptoms have been a lot worse. On top of that, I have had really bad allergies. We also like briefly talked about that last time because I told you all the story about shooting my EpiPen into my thumb. But since that happened, my allergies have been really out of control. And I feel like I had this really positive breakthrough over the last few days, which is that a lot of this stuff that's going on, like the PMDD being worse and the allergies being worse, has anxiety at the root of it. My body's sensitive, and so I feel like it does this thing where it's like, if you're not going to pay attention to the cues, then we're going to do something super dramatic. It was almost like, if you're not going to realize that you need to make some changes around anxiety, then we're going to make you allergic to fucking dogs and cats and caffeine, which is like the most depressing thing ever. But in that realization, I also was doing a lot of thinking about like positive and negative self-talk. When I talk to clients or talk to friends, I feel like when we're talking about body positivity, we're talking about the way bodies look. So like positivity around like size and appearance. And for the most part, I'm pretty positive about my own body in that way. So I think I had kind of convinced myself that like, oh, I don't do negative body talk. Like I'm okay with my body. I'm comfortable being naked. I'm comfortable with the way I look in a mirror. Like I'm in a good place. But I didn't really connect the fact that I also am often talking about how my body works in a really negative way. Like, I don't thank my body for things. I instead talk about how sick I am and how frustrated I am. And like, part of being, for anyone who has a chronic illness, and I know there's tons of us out there, it is frustrating. And that frustration is super legit and totally okay. But I'm just realizing that I need to maybe reframe it a little bit, or find a place to do things that make my body feel good. Mm-hmm. That was a long-winded way of saying that, like, bringing body positivity into the way my body works, not just the way my body looks, is something I'm really trying to focus on right now. And moving my body. Like, that's been the hardest for me, is getting back into a routine where I'm doing something more physical. And I still don't know what that looks like, but it might be yoga. It's not going to be running. That's all I can say. This is definitely not going to be running.
Yeah, when you were saying that, I was thinking about how it's very true for me that body positivity. I'm like, yay, I like my body even when I am at my heaviest, which used to be a really horrible thing for me because I struggled with eating disorder stuff. But I don't have a chronic illness, and I don't have allergies, knock on wood, because I guess that could change. So I can't even imagine what that does to that conversation in your own head.
Yeah, it's a weird place to be. And I guess it's just a reminder to like find space for the things you like about your body, whether they're physical or emotional or appearance based or whatever.
So there's more than one aspect, more than one side of body positivity then.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, and this, this comes into, of course, for like folks who have any kind of disability, like that doesn't mean that there's not space for body positivity there.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
I know it's been hard. It's hard as a friend too, because I'm like, I don't know, how do I try to make her feel better when there's things going wrong that you can't ignore from your body, like what can you say? Because it's not like one of those reassurances like, oh, you look great.
Right. No, of course. Well, it is. It's interesting being like a different kind of sick than what I think folks with mental illness, feel this too. And I'm sure you feel this in other ways too, which is like, there's certain kinds of sick where like someone can't just like give you a hug and bring you some soup. Like we know how to take care of people when they have a cold, but like it gets dicey when there's other things going on, especially when the things make you either want to isolate, which is like the PMDD, or have to isolate because with my like jacked up allergies, I haven't been able to go into a house where there's pets, and like all the queers have pets. Yes. Everybody has pets. I love pets.
Oh my goodness.
So
I thought about that too. I have 6 pets, so there's pretty much no way you can come over.
No.
Unless you want to come to a party, we'll have to walk you through the back.
Yeah, I mean, and like...
Because we have lots of fun parties with lots of tacos.
I love tacos.
You'll just have to come through the side. Avoid... Oh, no, still, there would probably be pet stuff all around my yard. Ugh.
That's a bummer.
Well, we'll keep... I mean, I know as we keep going, we'll be updated with what's going on with that, because I know you've been trying to find things to help.
I have, and I do believe that it's temporary. I don't think that like all of my allergies are going to go away. I've always had some version of a cat allergy, but I think this kind of extreme stuff is temporary. I'm holding on to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
This reminded me of, so we last recorded in October.
Wow, really?
Yes. So since then, I was going to go to Exotica and I didn't go.
Right.
And when you said something about mental health, it made me think of it, that I wanted to bring this up anyways, so I'll just do it now. I didn't go to Exotica because I had a little panic attack. My sponsor for the trip was Hot Octopus, and they were really great.
Yay.
And totally understanding. But in that moment when I was on the way to the airport and I'm like crying and I'm thinking, should I just push myself and go or should I stay home? But my biggest concern was being away from my little support system, being all the way on the other side of the United States. And what if I started to feel like I wasn't going to be okay? Even though there was people around me that I love and trust, it's just not the same as, your partner and your little family and friends that you need. And the time difference and all kinds of stuff, being away from my therapist. So I didn't go. Like you said, if someone has a broken arm or something, people can't deny it.
Right.
And that's what I told myself as I was trying to console myself after not getting on the plane and realizing, holy shit, I just missed it and I lost a lot of money. But I knew that this was the time where I could not push myself. Yeah, so shout out to Hot Octopus for being really understanding, and they were really wonderful about it and just like, don't worry about it, let's figure something else out.
That's great. It's important that people, because I mean, in any of these things, like, yes, it's a business arrangement, but like we're dealing with humans, and sometimes humans can't do all the things that we hope to do.
Yes.
So as a continuation of our first episode where you're getting to know us, we thought we wanted to talk a little bit more about queer relationships in general and kind of our own relationships specifically. And so part of what we came up with is, as a coach, I often work with couples around their relationship communication. And so one of the things I like to send out is like a yes, no, maybe list. They're usually pretty kink oriented, but they can be for anyone. And it's like a list of things, a list of sexual activities, and like, do you want to do them? Do you maybe want to do them? Do you never ever want to do them? And then have couples kind of review together and see where they sync up. And especially if they're like not having as much sex as they want to be having, or things are getting really routine, then they can be like, okay, well, here were 3 things that we wanted to try. So yeah, if you look those up online, there are a ton of like kink and BDSM ones. One of my favorites, especially because it's very queer focused, is Autostraddle. Has one called I don't remember what the actual thing is called, so we will definitely provide a link with the show notes for this so that you can check it out yourself. But it's basically a guide to, talking to your partner about sex. And so the way it starts is that kind of yes, no, maybe list idea called What I Want to Do. And so then it gives a list of things and you say if you want to do them and also if you want to do them or have them done to you. So if it's you're giving or topping or receiving or bottoming. So let's talk about some things on here. Should we just like take turns? Let's just take turns reading some of them and we can both say if we want to do it or not. Do you want me to read some?
Yeah.
Okay, masturbation. I think we're all a yes on that.
Yes.
Holding hands.
Yes.
Kissing.
Yes.
Necking. Necking is cute.
Oh, that is cute. That's a funny word too.
It is because it's funny here that it actually says parentheses kissing on the neck because like, I mean, I knew that, but whenever I hear the word necking, I think of like giraffes.
Yeah.
Like touching necks together. That makes more sense. I'm a yes on all of these things too. Activities that leave marks.
I like marks on my butt and thighs, but that's about it.
Yeah. Are you like an anti like hickey, like any neck or chest or whatever?
I'm around family and kids and stuff, and I just would prefer not to have any marks. And it's, camming and stuff. I mean, if I go to an event or some kink stuff and I come back with spank marks and like stuff on my butt and thighs, that's okay, and I'll kind of like talk about it. Mm-hmm. But to just have them on my neck and chest, I don't really like how it looks anymore. I
don't mind my chest or like legs or my ass or anything like that, but same. Like I feel like I'm too old to have like hickeys on my neck.
Yeah.
And when like I was drop 15, my kid off at school.
Yeah. When I was 15, I would have them all the time.
Oh, that's hilarious. Did you wear turtlenecks?
Yes, and I wore big sweaters, and I constantly had like the chapstick lids, and you know how you like circle them over the mark? That's supposed to make
I don't know that.
Away. So yeah, I would spend a lot of time doing that because my mom would have whooped my butt.
Okay, tickling.
No, I'm not a fan of tickling.
I'm also not a fan of tickling. I just find it unpleasant.
Yeah.
Wrestling or play fighting.
I really haven't done much of that, but it sounds like a lot of fun. I think I would really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's something I like. I think it's fun. I like restraints in a way of being like sort of held down. So if I get to like fight while I'm doing it, I don't know. I think that's fun.
Oh, that reminds me. The next episode is with Janet and Ted. Uh-huh. And they are lovely. You're going to hear them. And one of the things that they did when we were there recording at Thunder in the Mountains, this was all the way back in July.
Yeah.
They are very well known for their wrestling play.
Oh, cute.
People will watch them. They love to watch them, they say, because of that. And it was really fun to watch. And I think that's why I had an interest, because it was so much fun to see the way they aggravate each other and like push each other's buttons. And then, I don't know, I just loved it.
It's got a playfulness to it that some things don't as much. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I totally get that.
Dry humping.
Sure.
I haven't done that in so long, but it does sound fun.
Right.
It reminds me again of being younger.
It seems like a making out on the couch kind of activity.
Tribadism, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Which is scissoring, rubbing naked genitals together with a partner. Yes. Although I think it's a lot harder to accomplish than people might think when they make that, the little hand gesture.
Totally.
It's like, oh, it's kind of not that easy.
I also feel like it's a little more of a, I don't, when we're talking safer sex stuff, I don't use barriers for oral sex or fingering with people with vulvas, but it does get a little into the safe sex concerns. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's why that doesn't come up as much for me, even though sure, I like it, but Like I'd have to be like fluid bonded with a partner to do that. Even though like doing other things, I don't need to be, at least for my own personal like safe sex rules. Side note, it took me a long time to be able to say the word fluid bonding because I just think it's gross. Like not the concept of it, but just like the phrase fluid. When we talked about words we don't like, the phrase fluid like bonding. I really only encountered fluid bonding when I like got into the polyamorous community, and I get it, and it's an important like thing to talk about, right? And like it makes sense, you know what it means. Well, and if you don't know what it means, it just means someone that you don't use barriers with because you have both been tested and made agreements about who else you're having sex with. So yeah, I don't think there's a better word for it, but like it still kind of squicks me out. I think it's just fluid. It
reminds me of like a dental phrase.
Yeah,
I don't know, and I hate the dentist, so it's not my favorite thing, but I actually don't say it much. Fluid bonding.
I mean, I say it in C for sex discussions with people, as in like, oh, are you like if they're fluid bonded with a certain partner?
Yeah, and you know why I probably don't is because I have not been really dating this year, and no new relationships.
Totally,
I realized that I have had no new sex partners this year.
Oh wow,
yeah,
like this calendar year, like in 2018.
Mm-hmm. And I keep trying to think like, no, I had to have. Let me think. Nope. Isn't that wild?
That is wild. And so now I got to do the thing. New sex partners, as in someone you were not having sex with before this year. In 2018.
Yeah.
I've had 2, which is like all numbers are normal numbers, but that's lower for me over the last several years.
I think it was a rough year.
It's been a rough year for everyone.
Really rough year.
It really has.
The next one, masturbating in front of a partner. I love this. This is my favorite. Love this. I don't really need sex a lot.
Mm-hmm. And by sex, you mean like, what do you mean by sex when you say sex there?
Well, to me, it's anything, like anything sexual at all.
With a partner?
Yeah, with a partner. My primary partner, Kay. Since I live with her and I really haven't been dating much at all this year or doing anything, it's just been me and her.
Yeah.
And she wants sex a lot more than I do. One of the ways that we compromise is that I will masturbate in front of her. And I will also watch her. And she loves it. And, you know, there's that whole, is it sex without penetration? I struggled with that for a long time.
Yes.
And now I know, and that's why now I'm like, sex is everything.
Yeah.
It can feel like if there's not a finger or a dildo penetrating you, is it really sex? And now both of us have had to like work through that, and we're like, oh, yeah, this still is sex. This is the sexual intimacy that she requires. It doesn't have to be her fingering me. So that has been a really fun thing for both of us is, masturbating in front of each other, it works. It feels just as good.
Well, yeah, and you have
something
like
else.
You have a sense of control, and like you know what can make you know what works for you. But then it also has the added intimacy of like someone else is there. I don't think masturbating in front of a partner is the same as masturbating by myself. Mm-hmm. Like I enjoy both of those things, but there is a difference in like a positive way.
And you can be like, okay, help me, and now stop.
Right. Exactly.
Now just watch. Okay, now help me again. So
or I even just like to be able to like kiss my partner like while I'm using a vibrator, you know, and like I'm happy to do all the like hand work there, but still have some touch and some like just like making out even when I come. It's super fun.
Yes. Hands or fingers on strap-on?
I mean, sure.
I think that's super hot, and the reason that this year I've had a lot more of that is from filming stuff.
Oh, sure.
And camming, because I don't cam with anyone and I don't film with anyone, so I've had to learn to use toys, and it's been really fun. Also, Crash Pad series porn, which we are going to review.
Yes.
I love it. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of going down on the strap-on and touching it, and I just was like, wow, this is really hot and something that I never really got into for a lot of my life.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome for people, like strap-ons are awesome for people who are having any kind of like gender feels around like wanting to have more of a cock or a penis, but also for people who just want to have that feeling that isn't usually part of their sex life. Yeah. Yay, strap-ons.
Yay.
Basically, the idea of this is just like different ways to talk to your partner about sex, like about what you like, what words you want and don't want. Some of the stuff in here has a feel of like a scene negotiation, which is another thing kind of coming from the kink world of like, you know, how do you tell me that you do like something or you don't like something? How do you communicate that you want to stop or you want more?
Something interesting that just happened last week, kind of goes into the last part of this survey, is I logged into FetLife for the first time in over a year.
Oh, FetLife.
Oh, FetLife.
The MySpace of sex websites.
I locked myself out of it because I just got irritated with it and didn't go on. It was like 3 years ago. I took that BDSM test, which we'll have to link that. We'll have to link it in this blog post too because it's really fascinating. And the first time I took it 3 years ago, my first result was 95% submissive.
Okay.
And I always thought of myself like as a submissive person, and that's how I would want to play. And now I took it again, and this time the first result was 100% switch.
Interesting.
And I thought it's so true. And it's funny because I've started to take submissive out of all of my descriptions because there was a time when that was really fun for me. And one of the tags I would always use is yes, daddy, which I love. And I love how women like to be called daddy. All genders can be called daddy. Like, that blew my mind at first. I was like, oh my God, this changes the way I can play.
Yeah.
Just because it's something that I was so used to thinking of, like, this cis male dude, like, who's super in charge.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just, like, opened up all these doors. And I was like, oh, I love that. I still love the yes, daddy kink. But I get a lot of people who will come into the cam room who are like, spit on your tits for daddy. And I'm just like, no, I can't play like this anymore with people.
Yep.
Unless I know them. And so I'm taking it off. And I thought, wow, we know how much we can change, but it's funny to see it in a way like that, the BDSM test.
Yeah, I'd be interested to take it again, too. I think...
Yeah, you should.
Kink is one of those things that... Because I used to put, like, that I was kinky, like, on all my dating profiles and all that stuff. And now I kind of change it to, like, kinky-ish.
Yeah.
I think kink, more than a lot of other things, like, is so dependent on where you are in your life, because there's more of, not for everyone, but like, at least for me, there's more of an emotional component there.
Yes.
And, because same way, like, I don't know that, I don't identify as a switch, but I used to identify like as a heavy sub. I worked as a professional, like, heavy pain submissive for like 6 months. But like, I don't think I could do that now. And so, but I'm not uninterested in kink stuff. So yeah, that would be an interesting one to see where I would fall on the spectrum of things.
I scored really high vanilla, which I didn't the first time. And I laughed because at this point, which I'm sure we'll go into more with our own relationships, I'm not really into dating so much this year. I'm not even playing with new people, really. I'm just not doing any of it. And so my life feels a lot more vanilla.
Yeah.
And when I am, kink used to be super important. Like, that's what I want from someone else. And now I'm like, if it happens, then yes. I just want the emotional connection. So it's just weird how much we change. Like, I think I am pretty vanilla right now.
Yeah, and that's okay. You know? Like, yeah. I think when we get into like a sex positive, like, community or space, there's this little bit of like, it's kind of the opposite of like the regular world where there's a lot of kink shaming, and it's like, oh no, I'm vanilla. Yeah. Like, it's like a bad word. Yeah,
and I know it's not bad.
So yeah, we will add a link to that.
Yes, lots of fun links for you to go find out more about yourself.
Yeah, and by the way, if you're single, do these too, because you're a great tool to like compare where you are with your partner or partners. But if you're single, it's really helpful, because then when you do get in a relationship, you have better language for what you're into or not into, and like what you need and what's a boundary and what's, things that like I think we don't always think about. I hear a lot of people who don't talk in bed or don't use dirty talk, but their main reason is they say, well, I don't know what I want. And so that's where I think this stuff can be helpful, is to be like, I don't know, sometimes it's easier to look through a list and be like, this list says fisting and water sports. okay, I'm actually into those things. Then to just out of the blue have somebody be like, what are you into? And you're like, I don't know, sex. So like just seeing it on a piece of paper or on your computer screen, I don't know, kind of validates that other people are into the thing.
Yeah. The survey that we're going to talk about next, this is perfect. It leads right into it. I haven't used that what I want to do list with people, but I have used the queer relationship survey. To me, it's like, it's an icebreaker.
Yes.
You can't, when you're on dates, it's hard. It takes a long time to get to know someone truly, but also to talk about really important things before they happen sometimes, instead of putting yourself in a spot where you don't know what to do for someone.
Yeah.
Which happens a lot, I think, in queer relationships that might not happen.
I think that's true too.
In other relationships, I don't know.
I know my experience has been in relationships with queer folks versus relationships with like cis het guys, that and some of this might just be the timing of when these things have happened, but that my relationships with like dudes have tended to start with sex, and the sex stays kind of the same the whole way through. Where with queer partners, it maybe takes a little longer to get to sex, but then there's better communication around it. So
yeah,
that's a huge generalization. Hashtag not all men. So, to talk a little bit about like what this thing is, I spoke at 2 conferences last year in Los Angeles, Catalyst Con and Sex Pause Con, with a friend and colleague of mine who I'll give a shout out to, Sam Silverman, who is
I love Sam.
Sam's great. Sam's a therapist, and so we did presentations on queer and trans relationships, and so some of the stuff we're talking about now, but one of the things we put together, and I credit Sam with most of this, was a queer and trans relationship template, and it's a list of questions to ask a new or potential partner that's very, like, basically orientation, identity, and gender inclusive. So again, we will link to that. But
you should do it. You and Sam should do it at Sex Down South.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
That's one that I really want to go to. If anyone wants to go to a sex conference, Woodhall is good, but Sex Down South was really, really great. And that is going to be next August in Atlanta.
Okay.
So there's plenty of time.
I don't get to the South very much. I wouldn't mind. I'm
That
from
would
the
be so
Midwest.
fun to
I like
go.
the South. I'll aim for that. I can plan for that.
And it was such a good class, honestly.
Yeah.
Not just because you're my friend.
We could
I sat there and I took so many notes and I was like, wow, I love this. And it has really helped me.
That's awesome. Well, I know that there was one question on there that like you told me you used in real life. If you want to, you want to tell us about that?
Yes. The one that was super helpful to me. Okay. It's number 11 since I have numbers.
Megan has numbered a list that doesn't have numbers on it, which is pretty amazing. So if you get this later and you're like, where's number 11?
Yeah, that's right. I made my own numbers.
There is no number.
That's just how I am. I typed it, even though I have a copy machine. I'm always adding extra steps to complicate things. Okay, 11, which means nothing to anyone else except me. If someone misgenders me, I would like you to.
This is so dependent on the person. Some people are way more comfortable like letting that moment pass and just not acknowledging it because, I mean, it's shitty to get misgendered.
Yes.
And so to kind of, and most trans and non-binary, gender non-conforming folks get misgendered all the fucking time. And so sometimes if you've had a whole day of being misgendered, then...
Burping.
I was like, what is this face you're making?
You totally burp away from the...
You totally made a face like you like smelled something weird. And I was like...
I was trying not to let it make noise on here.
No, I made it a whole thing. So you can decide if you want to cut that out or not. I thought you were... My room smells a lot like weed. So I was like, are you smelling the weed?
I love that smell.
No, it's not bad. So... Yes. So some people, if they've had, kind of microaggressions all day, are like, you just ignore it. Other people are really tired of having to defend themselves, but would love if someone else would be like, for example, like, yeah, don't call us ladies. That's where I feel like I get in a situation where like I'm with a trans masculine person and we get like ladies, which is gross.
Yeah.
So yeah, you asked somebody about this, right?
Actually, so far I've asked 3 people.
That's awesome.
People either that I was on a date with, friends with, and I actually asked my partner because she gets misgendered sometimes. Mm-hmm. And the 3 different answers were all so different. My partner, Kay, was like, it's not a big deal, because she gets called, like, we'll be out somewhere and they're like, oh, thanks, dude, or thanks, bro, and oh, they'll say him. Uh-huh. Or and she just said, it doesn't really bother me. It's, most of the time they're just being friendly, like, thanks, bro. She's like, oh, no big deal. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't bother her at all.
And for context, she's a cis woman who is somewhat more like androgynous presenting.
Yes.
Would that be accurate?
Yes. Yeah. I asked someone else and they said, just get me out of this situation. Uh-huh. Don't really bring it up because it's just going to make it worse. Just kind of try to find a way to get me out. Okay. And then the third person said, if you can say something to the person. And when I actually did say something, it was exactly what you said. They get misgendered all the time. We were having a lovely conversation at dinner, and then the person was, I don't remember if they said, like, ladies. Can I help you, ladies? And you could just see that their face changed. Yeah. And it's like we were having this great conversation, and then that happened. And it's from so many times of it happening. And so since I knew it was okay, then I said something to the waiter after about, oh, just so you know, they are non-binary, and so ladies doesn't work for them. Mm-hmm. And he was really horrified. You could tell. He was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Yeah. I think sometimes, like, for the other person who said, just get me out of there, sometimes doing that will make it worse for them. Sure, because they don't want to bring attention. Need to know. Yeah. When we left, I was like, hopefully the waiter won't do that again, Well, and I think that's where it's helpful, is the person could be like, oh, wait, I shouldn't try to assume people's gender by just saying ladies. Maybe I should just say folks or friends or whatever. Even though I hate the ladies thing, there's like the other side of it, because my partner's a trans woman and she does get misgendered sometimes. So but not that often. That's not true. I think all trans people get misgendered that often, I guess. And I'm more speaking from my experience of not that often when we're out together. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean that she doesn't deal with it all the time. When we get like, hi, ladies, it's really nice. Because it's this thing that, like, I don't like to be called lady anyway. Yeah. And I definitely, like, feel for, like, my, like, trans masculine friends or non-binary friends that they don't want to hear it. But then when I'm out with my partner, it feels very affirming. It's like, oh, this person, like, sees you for who you are. And so then it's very, like, warm and fuzzy. Yeah. I still wish they'd say folks. But there is something about, like, ladies that is affirming. I say guys. I try not to, but it just flies out of my mouth. I've gotten better. It took me a while to unlearn that. I say y'all. I love y'all. I feel like I can pull off y'all, but I know some people are not comfortable with it. Just like they don't say it as naturally. Hey, y'all. I saw something on Twitter. They were asking for formal greetings. How do you do a formal greeting for a room? And someone said you could do welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and people beyond the binary. Oh, that's nice. And I thought it was nice, and I think I asked a few people how they felt, and they were like, oh, yeah, that's cool. To plug the blog, I think we put an Ask Sex Coach Lee on there about gendered language. So if you're looking for some other ways to avoid using gendered language in your everyday life, check out queersnextdoor.com. Yeah. Ask Sex Coach Lee. Another thing that I had talked about before with someone that was non-binary is, for me, girlfriend has for some reason been a super important title. And that's fine because it's me, and people are like, okay, whatever, if that's what you like. Yeah. But for someone who doesn't, want to be a boyfriend or a girlfriend, then we talked about person. You could be my person. Then there's also babe, friend, all kinds of stuff. Cutie. I love cutie. Yeah, I've also noticed I've started referring to people like as my people. Like in my kind of like a way to refer to like really close friends and partners and people like metamours and people in my polycule as sort of like my people. Yeah. Which, I don't know, chosen family, they're all sort of the same concept. Some of the other things on here were what is most important to me in a relationship. Do you want me to answer it? Yeah.
I do.
What is most important to me in a romantic or sexual relationship right now?
Yep.
Is, I guess ultimately it's just communication. I think it's another question that I was going to answer here, but it also goes into things that make me feel secure and safe. So I'll just do that now too.
Yeah.
Is to know when we're going to speak.
Totally.
I don't have any other partners at the moment than Kay, but I have people who are out of town who come in and out of my life. We are flirty friends, and if I do end up seeing them, we'll hang out and maybe date, and, you know, things might happen. And that's a little different because we just know we're always there if we need each other, but we just don't check in every day. But for people that I've tried to date that live closer to me, it's been a really hard balance for me with, like, the time. How often am I going to see you? How often are we going to talk?
Yeah.
One of the things that makes me feel secure is to know, and even just a message of, like, hey, I'm thinking about you, but not expecting me to, like, full on respond.
Yeah, like that you have the same expectations around those things is really important.
When I say it, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's been really hard. So that is the most important thing to me. So I guess, what is that? Like, good communication?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say
good
that's...
communication and understanding.
Or like having like aligning expectations, maybe.
Yes. I've noticed for sure that when I try to date someone new or when someone's interested in me, I can feel the expectation and it just makes me want to shut down.
Sure.
And it doesn't mean that I don't want to date anyone. I do want to. It just has to be aligned really well, like you said. And there has to be the understanding. I don't want anyone to feel like, why don't you care about me? And you don't do enough to show me that, which is super hard because, like, I'm super sensitive. So I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a really long answer.
No, that totally makes sense. Another one is that I think is especially relevant to polyamory is like, what does your ideal schedule look like for work, play, multiple partners, etc. And I don't know, I've been thinking about that a little bit lately because even if you're not in a like a hierarchical poly relationship, meaning like a primary partner and secondary partners, like I wouldn't consider my relationship, like I don't do relationship hierarchy, but obviously like my relationship with my longest term partner is very close and very intertwined and very committed, even though there's not a hierarchy to it. But also just realizing what other things in our life become almost like a partner. That like there was a guy I dated for a while and who's still a close friend, but who had a primary partner, but then his work was his other primary partner. Like, even though he was only seeing one other person, it was really hard for him to find like physical time for me. Like he was like emotionally available and not physically available, which is interesting. And like, I have a kid. That is like having another partner, you know? But when I'm dating like someone new or getting to know someone else, I feel like if a relationship's going to grow like past a casual place, which not all relationships need to, that I need to see the person at least once a week. But I don't know, like I'm kind of a routine person. Like I kind of like expectations. I think I like to set expectations too. So like I don't need to see somebody on the same day every week, but I just need to know that we're in constant communication about like when we're going to see each other or how we're feeling, even if because like life happens, even if it means sometimes we don't see each other for a few weeks. It's the making your intentions clear and then kind of backing those up. Yeah.
I think definitely my work stuff is like a partner for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's tough for people who are trying to get to know me and they feel like I don't have a lot of time, but they see my social media or they see me going on cam.
Yeah.
And it's super easy, I think, for people to forget that that is like a job.
Sure.
And that it's kind of a persona, even though I use my real name. I am very much myself. When people ask me questions, I do answer because my real life is so out there anyways. You know, they already know. They can see it on my blog. I don't have like, oh, I'm this other person entirely. I'm not, but it is a different persona.
You're still performing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Social media is a great way to see what's going on with me, but it's also challenging, I think, when people are like, oh, you don't have time to talk to me, but you have time to post 5 Instagram photos that day. But it's like I have to kind of keep up with social media, or I will no longer have people paying me for things.
Of course.
That's been hard.
But I also, I'm an introvert and I need, alone time. And that almost qualifies. I'm another partner of mine, too.
Oh, I love that. That's so true.
I did something social. I met a friend for dinner on Friday night, and then I spent time with somebody during the day on Saturday. But both of those nights, after the dinner and then Saturday night, I spent by myself. My partner was out of town with her other partner, and I had a blast, but I listened to podcasts and colored and had some edibles. I date myself in that way,
Yeah.
And it was great. I didn't feel if I had not seen people the rest of the day, I would have started to feel lonely. But because I had that social time at other points of the day, I had plenty of recharge time too. Mm-hmm. So I could see somebody same way being you spend a lot of time by yourself though. That's free time. And it's not though. It's me time. Yeah. I'm just going to keep saying expectations over and over again because that's what it is, right? Mm-hmm. It's just setting expectations with new partners that this is what my other relationships look like. And this is what I'm open to this one looking like. And if there's a limit to that, that's okay too. You just let the person know up front.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing I thought about when we were talking about relationships a few weeks ago that I wanted to discuss is that I do think that we are both very polite and happy and proper, mm-hmm. Which we just are. And I think I hear a lot about polyamory that way. And I was telling someone that I still struggle with jealousy. And my partner, Kay, is also really not dating right now. So right. I haven't dealt with it in a long time. But there was a time this year, actually, that she went on a date that everyone's like, compersion, yay, everything's great. This is so cool. And she picked up, I didn't realize that she was going to be picking up the girl. Uh-huh. And she got home, and the first date she went on, I was a mess. But the second one, I was like, okay, this is fine. I went and did something, and she came home, and I realized, I'm like, did you pick her up in our car? And she was like, yes. And it was horrible. I don't even know if I want to put it out there, but I was like, I don't want that bitch in my car.
Oh yeah, you just that thing just turns on sometimes. And
I felt so bad immediately. She looked at me with her eyes got wide, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. She's a lovely person, I'm sure. I don't know who she is, and I'm really sorry that I called her a bitch. But I was like, that's my natural reaction. And I was like, holy shit, I still have so much of this toxic, I don't know.
Monogamy.
Toxic monogamy inside. And I don't think monogamy is always toxic. People get defensive about that term.
But that idea of monogamy
yes.
is I think that's what that means. Not that monogamy is toxic, but that the idea that someone's invading your space and therefore they're a bitch is very yes.
So I still have that in me. So just in case people, I think one of the reasons I wanted to bring that up is because when people... The most common thing I hear is don't you get jealous? I could never do that.
Of course.
Because you see people who are handling it very well.
Yep.
And that's because in life we share the rose-colored filter of things.
Yeah.
And so it's not that, not everyone has to be polyamorous. But if it's something you want and you feel it would work well in your relationship, just because you have those jealous feelings and just because you might want to call that person a bitch, it doesn't mean you'll stay in that,
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think, I definitely have that persona too, because I work with people on polyamory. Mm-hmm. I talk about it. I've given presentations on it. I talk about it here. I've been actively poly for almost 5 years. And was non-monogamous for another stint before that. But of course I still get jealous. Jealousy's a feeling. I have feelings. Mm-hmm. And I have irrational feelings sometimes too. Yeah. And the goal there is just to identify what is this feeling saying to me, right? Mm-hmm. I posted a thing on my sex coach Lee Instagram the other day that was what triggered me. And then it was a whole list of statements. And I think that that's like, I used that recently with my partner to talk through something. Like, it's a really good way to look at it, because if you're feeling jealous, like, what was the trigger? Was it like a fear of being replaced? Was it insecurity? Was it like loneliness? Like, there's a feeling behind that jealousy.
I just have to be able to be heard. I've had partners in the past who are like, I don't do jealousy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that means that I can't talk to you about feelings that I'm going to have. And that sucks. So.
Well, and that's such a like fucked up statement, because that's like saying like, I don't do happy, or I don't do anger. Like, it's a feeling. You don't do it or not do it. Yeah. You could say like, I don't get caught up in jealousy, or like, I've found ways to manage my jealousy, but like, it's just, we all feel jealous at some point. If your jealousy is overwhelming, then I think, and it's destructive, then I don't think non-monogamy is like the right thing for you at the moment. How capable are you of doing that work, either like alone or with someone else?
I've been thinking of that for a while, so I'm glad that I finally brought it up. I'm like, one day I need to tell that story. And now my partner and I, we can be out and people are fighting about jealousy stuff. And I'm like, oh, remember those days? And she's like, yeah, it wasn't that long ago. When we got together and I knew that her ex got her something, I would make her throw it in the trash. Like, I was bad.
Oh, yeah.
I was bad. And those things still come up, but it's like I said, it will happen. And I'm like, oh, I don't really need to feel that, because I do think a lot about what am I worried about? It's just, and it's mostly for me just a pattern. I've had a lot of really jealous partners, and I'm just like doing what I always do.
So it's triggered that in you, this thing that like has just become like, this is how you deal with the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jealousy is okay.
Jealousy is okay. It is natural. It is normal. Feelings are feelings.
Oh, I had a thought. That would be a good one for the survey or the questionnaire is, how do we handle jealousy, or what do we do when you feel jealous, or something like that?
Also, like, there's a good way of like how you address like negative feelings with a partner. And it comes from the idea of nonviolent communication, but they also talk about it in like the kind of poly Bible, More Than Two, which I'm going to review for the blog because I just finished reading it for the second time. And it's real great. But it's the idea of like, if you're feeling jealous, like what to say to your partner is like, when you do X, I feel Y. I'm asking you to do Z. So instead of just saying like you let that bitch in my car, we'll use that as an example. Instead, you can say like, when someone else rides in your car, I feel replaced, and I'm asking you to give me a heads up beforehand next time.
Yeah.
For example. So I always like that.
Which she probably didn't, because she thought I would be like, no.
Well, right. And then that's where you have to decide, right? If you're asking for something you actually want. Because if you're like, oh, but even if you do give me a heads up, I'm still going to be pissed. I'm like, I don't know. There's other stuff to work through.
You can ask me, but I'm going to say no.
Right. I would like you to ask me so I can say no. So we're just about finishing up. I had this thought because we are going into the holidays. We're recording right now at the beginning of December. So we're in full holiday zone. And there was some talk online about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, like the old one, and a lot of like funny jokes and stuff about it, and just like, you know, memes and whatever about how like it's kind of like the worst message. There's like a lot of stuff about bullying, and there's the idea that like, you know, being different is only okay if it's exploitable. Like, terrible. But the one thing that I'm kind of obsessed with about that first of all, have you seen it? The old like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer?
Yeah, it's the clay one or whatever it was. Yeah,
they're claymation looking. Yeah. So there's Rudolph, and he's different because of his fucking nose. And then there's the elf who wants to be a dentist and not an elf. And like, I'm obsessed with the fact that that's clearly just coded for gay. And like,
oh my gosh, I have to rewatch it.
Yeah, because he's like everybody. He's like, you know, he's kind of characterized as sort of flamboyant, and it's also like about how everyone else is just being the same and making toys, and he's like, I just want to be a dentist, you know. And I just feel like he, like, everything about it, if you just sub in like, I'm really gay, is like exactly what's going on there. And I think that's really funny that no one mentioned that, and maybe this is all in my head. But I think Rudolph is different because of his nose, and the elf is different because he wants to be a gay dentist.
I have to watch it now so I can give you my input. That's funny.
So if anyone wants to weigh in on that, we would love to hear what you think. And then speaking of the holidays can be tough for queer folks. We will not unpack that huge idea right now, but just to say that, like, a lot of us have found our own new traditions. So some of us are great with our families of origin, and some of us have chosen family, and some of us have community, and there are all kinds of different ways to be queer for the holidays. And so what we would love is for you to tell us what yours are. Tell us what your holiday traditions are, whether they're new or old. You can let us know on Instagram. You can tag us, and you can also use the hashtag queer for the holidays.
Yes, I was just looking at it right now.
And let us know how you're going to be celebrating, or if you're not celebrating, what you're going to do instead.
Yeah, take a picture with your little group or by yourself, whatever you're doing. Let us know.
Awesome. So yeah, you can tag us at Queers Next Door on the Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah, then maybe we can discuss it.
Great. We'd love to hear what you have to say, and we can talk about it more.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Queers Next Door. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to follow, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts.
If you like what we're doing, join the Queers Next Door fan club at patreon.com/queersnextdoor to receive all of our exclusive content. And we'll mail you a fun little surprise. You can find the link on our blog, queersnextdoor.com. Cheers, queers!